Let's go ahead and get into what a gold standard would look like. For a lot of our history, we've actually been on a gold standard, and we were on a gold standard up until around 1971. Now, this gold standard had some benefits and it also had some problems, but let's start out with getting into some of the benefits of a gold standard. One of the main benefits is that gold is a neutral reserve asset. It's an asset that countries can trust. Gold isn't controlled by one single person or party. It's governed by the laws of nature. When we think about the dollar monetary system, one of the problems is that all of these countries have to trust the United States. Under this system, the main reserve asset is US Treasuries. And as we saw back in 2022, if you piss off the United States, they can always freeze your assets. So with a gold-backed monetary system, all of these countries can control their own gold, and they don't have to trust in any other country when it comes to the reserve asset. And I think that is really key when it comes to a global monetary system. The other main benefit is that gold is scarce. Scarcity is the key property of money. If we don't have scarcity with money, then the supply can just grow and grow, and the money loses its value over time. When we look at gold, gold has been the hardest good to produce out there, so naturally it became money. And when the money was backed by gold, there was at least this attempt to keep money honest, to keep the supply from growing too fast. Since 1971, when we went off the gold standard, the money supply has been growing and growing. When we look at government money, there's nothing keeping governments from printing more and more. So at least under a gold standard, these governments had an obligation to keep the money supply tied to the gold supply, and it led to the money having some element of scarcity and the money keeping its value over time. Now, before I get into some of the problems with the gold standard, I do want to mention that you should check out Saifedean Ammous's new book on the gold standard. He does a great job of going through the history of the gold standard, some of the benefits that we saw, as well as some of the things we learned and the flaws of this system. I'm also going to put a link down below for his other book, his most popular book, The Bitcoin Standard, which is a book that I've read multiple times. This book is very interesting. It goes through the history of money, the evolution of money, and talks about how Bitcoin could be the next step. This is a really great author, a very great educator, and I highly recommend you check out these books. I'll put those links down below. The problem with the gold standard is that although it has good intentions, it does turn into a credit-based system similar to the one we have now. There are a couple of reasons for why this is. The main one is that settlement of gold is slow and expensive. It takes a lot of time and energy to move gold across the ocean or to another country, and really to move gold at all. And what this does is it incentivizes credit over settlement. So rather than people moving gold around and settling transactions, what they'll do is they'll send credit around. And what starts to happen is we start to get these claims for gold moving around way more than the actual gold, because people just don't want to move it. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. Another reason is that gold is not divisible. You can't take an ounce of gold to the grocery store and pay for your groceries because there's no way to divide it up. So what this does is it incentivizes more credit. Rather than paying for things with physical gold, because it's very difficult to do because you can't divide it up, what happens is people start trading these claims on gold. Rather than me trying to cut up this gold bar and pay for this thing, I will give you a claim on my gold for a certain amount that you can collect at a later point in time. The other main problem is that gold is not easily verifiable. There isn't an easy way to know who holds the gold and how much gold they have. So what happens is these large and powerful entities like governments or banks, they'll start to issue out more claims for gold than the actual physical gold they're storing in their vaults. And as long as there isn't a way for the customers and the people to know how much gold they have, they can do this. And what happens is these claims for gold start to really outnumber the actual amount of physical gold. So it turns into this fractional reserve system similar to the one we have now, where these claims for gold become overexpanded and outnumber the physical gold out there. And this works for these large and powerful institutions as long as everyone doesn't come back and try to redeem their gold at the same time. But if people lose trust in the system and they say, hey, I want to get my physical gold, and everybody comes back with their receipts, their claims on gold to get it, and the institutions don't have it, then there's a big problem and everybody loses trust in the system. So this is the problem with the gold standard. In order for it to work, people have to trust that the people in power won't abuse the system, but that's just not the world we live in. And I believe that if we were to try out a gold standard again, it would end in the same way. It would end in this credit-based system where the credit would expand too much and eventually it would all fall apart.